Minister for Recovery and Reconstruction for Southwest Alberta.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. It's an honour to stand and speak to this piece of legislation, something that I'm extremely passionate about, and would like to share with the honourable members of this Assembly some of the background that I have with this particular piece of legislation. I want to take us back to the 27th Legislature, of the 5th session of the 27th Legislature. That was the session just before the election in 2012. And I had two motions on the order paper at that time, Madam Speaker. The first one was motion that I want to talk about was motion 519, and it read, be it resolved the Legislative Assembly urge the government to undertake a review and public consultation regarding the purpose and scope of both the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund and the Sustainability Fund, including the mandatory allocation of non-renewable resource revenue to these funds. Well, Madam Speaker, it was shortly after the election that the Premier appointed me Associate Minister of Finance, with one of my mandates being the consultation around a savings policy for this province. And I could tell you that I'm very proud, Madam Speaker, to have brought forward with the Honourable Finance Minister the Fiscal Management Act last spring, which set out exactly that, a mandatory savings policy when it came to the non-renewable resource revenue. We debated and passed that piece of legislation in this House, and I think it stands for itself. The government will be, for the first time in a long time, putting aside non-renewable resource revenue into our savings account, and that's something I can be very proud of. The second part of that motion talked about what the purpose is for the savings account, and I recently on Budget Day did a poll, teletown hall in my constituency. As part of that, I did a poll that asked what the government should be using its savings for, and I gave people three options. 23% of them said the savings should be strictly for the replacement of non-renewable resource revenue when it runs out. 15% said it should be a cushion for short-term revenue fluctuations. 28% said it should be used to invest in Albertans' quality of life today and in the future. Another 28% said all of the above, and 8% said don't save at all. So I know when I speak in favour of this piece of legislation that I'm speaking on behalf of a significant majority of my constituents, because essentially what this piece of legislation does, it allows us to invest strategically in our future as a province. It does allow us to put some money away for the eventual depletion of non-renewable resource revenue, as well as it does, our savings policy does help cushion the blow through the contingency account of short-term revenue fluctuations. So I know that the government's savings policy does reflect the values in my constituency, Madam Speaker. So I do want to take you to the second motion I had on that order paper, and that motion was back in 2012, was be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly urge the government to undertake a review of current social entrepreneurship in Alberta and develop a platform that will encourage collaboration within and among the public, private and not-for-profit sectors relating to social enterprise and the delivery of social and community programming. Again, Madam Speaker, this is something that I've been very passionate about for a long, long time in my role in public service. Obviously, as many members know, I was a school board trustee for the Calgary Board of Education for 3 years, and it was very interesting. There was something that became very clear to me. I started to see the emergence of the three sectors we have in the society, the private sector, the not-for-profit sector, and the public sector. In many instances, a lot of the trends that were happening in those sectors were responses to problems that the other sectors were typically good at dealing with. And I think this has provided us a huge opportunity here in this province and around the world to look at things differently and to step outside the box. And this is why I support this particular legislation. I am very much a supporter of the Social Innovation Endowment Fund because I believe it provides us the opportunity to do so. And, Madam Speaker, I could say in all honesty, this is why I stand in this legislature today. This is what motivates me as a person that wants to get involved in public service, because I know the challenge. Governments one of the main functions of government is to allocate a finite amount of resources. And it's a challenge, and we all deal with those challenges, trying to find the priorities when there are so many of them, to determine what gets the public funding and what doesn't. And you know, I got very frustrated in public discourse around the debate as to how we're allocating resources, and only if we had more funding for this, and only if we have more funding for this. And the debate around public policy seemed to devolve into a debate simply about whether we have sufficient amount of funding in something or not. There's many people in this world, as the Honourable Deputy Premier, one of his most famous sayings that I love is, there's some people in this world that believe to solve all of our issues, we just need to add more money and stir. I simply do not believe in that, Madam Speaker. I think this world is changing so much that some of the systems, some of the programs, some of the ways that we do things today just simply do not sufficiently deal with the societal problems that we have, no matter how much money you want to put into the system. So one of the motivating factors for me standing here today is not to, I didn't come here to put more money into this or put more money into this. I came here today or got myself into public life because I honestly and sincerely believe that if we put our heads together, we could actually come up with systems, come up with ideas that actually meet today's needs instead of just trying to fund at a greater level a system that met yesterday's needs. And that is something that I'm very, very passionate about. In fact, there was an article written in the paper just days before the last provincial election by Nick Gafuic, who at the time was involved with the Manning Institute. And in that article in the Calgary Herald on March 25th, he quoted Preston Manning as saying, when talking about social entrepreneurship and social innovation, he quoted him as saying, "When should government facilitate, enable, and partner with other stakeholders to achieve public goals? How can government facilitate without creating unhealthy dependencies on bureaucratic intrusions into the non-governmental sectors?" The article goes on to make some suggestions, such as, you know, the government needs to, and they talk a little bit about my emotions, some of the stuff that is happening in the federal government in this area. Then it goes on to say the government should create appropriate legal structures for social enterprises that combine social objectives with business discipline. There are an increasing number of social enterprises in Canada. These are ventures that have a social mission and might generate revenue or even a modest profit through their operations. It continues to go on to say that for the government to develop alternative funding mechanisms for social enterprise to encourage creative thinking about social problems. And it says, imagine a prize for a group able to increase the success rates of addiction treatment or programs or decreased recidivism. Madam Speaker, this is what social innovation is about, and I just want to provide what the definition of social innovation is, and this is from the Centre of Social Innovation based out of Ontario, and it defines social innovation as new ideas that resolve existing social, cultural, economic, and environmental challenges for the benefit of people and the planet. A true social innovation is systems changing. It permanently alters the perceptions, behaviors, and structures that previously gave rise to the challenges. Again, Madam Speaker, this is something that I know has driven me in my pursuit in public life, and this is why I was so happy to see Bill 1, and why I think all members should support this particular bill. In fact, it was in 2010 when the idea of social innovation really started to become a little bit well known, when David Cameron in the UK Conservative Party put forward in its manifesto the idea or the concept of a big society. And this is really what the roots of social innovation is. It's to empower people, empower communities to come up with the solutions that beg us to come up to solutions for in our communities, the social problems, the challenges, those types of things. And it was premised on 5 principles: to give communities more powers, so localism and devolution; to encourage people to take an active role in their communities; to transfer power from central to local government; to support co-ops, mutuals, charities, and social enterprises; and to publish government data. Again, this is the whole concept, again, at the very heart of it. It is something that I strongly believe in, is to start to develop programming that is based at the local level. It's developed by the local level, delivered at the local level, and not delivered by some uniform government bureaucracy that doesn't react very well and reacts with very limited flexibility to the unique needs of many of our citizens and the unique complexities of many of the social problems. Madam Speaker, I just want to talk briefly about what social innovation is not, and I've heard a little bit of it. Social innovation is not a panacea for all of our social ills. Let's be clear. No one has ever said that social innovation is going to solve everything that comes before us. But it is an opportunity to explore. An opportunity, and I believe it said in the throne speech, as was delivered by the Honourable Lieutenant Governor, it is a way to take today's ideas and try to find tomorrow's solutions. And that's what this is really about. It's also not to replace existing funding or to shirk government responsibilities. In fact, this fund and this funding is to provide incremental funding as well as leverage other resources out there in the community. And then as well as, this is not a revolutionary approach to government. This is an evolutionary approach that through introducing best practices and programs to the public sector. And if we find certain programs work better than others, those programs will naturally rise to the top, and those best practices and those programs will be able to then start to replace what we do in government in the public sector. I do want to talk briefly about why I'm so passionate about this, Madam Speaker. And why I'm so passionate about it is I've had a number of conversations over the last number of years with Albertans. In fact, many of them with my constituents, and I want to highlight them for a minute. For example, I introduced just before last election Tammy Maloney, who's a constituent of mine. Tammy, just to read a little bit about her, after 20 years in the private sector managing business and facility change management as a liaison between departments in the oil and gas industry, she left to obtain a master's degree in business administration with a focus on social entrepreneurship from the IESE Business School in Spain. In 2010, she launched the Sea Change Company in Calgary, which is focused on social entrepreneurship. After pouring her passion and heart into the public, private, and not-for-profit sectors, trying to determine which one should take the lead, Tammy has come to the conclusion it's none of them. To that end, it's divisive and bifurcated nature of our society and systems. She believes we need to leverage the principles of social entrepreneurship to unite the sectors toward a shared vision of creating prosperity for all people. Again, this is an Albertan that is very passionate about this and is very excited about this opportunity that is presenting itself with its Social Entrepreneur Fund. When I introduced her, I also introduced her with a client of hers, Isabella. Isabella is a young lady that is on AISH and receives AISH payments. She's worked with Isabella, who has had a very difficult time keeping down any sort of traditional employment, but has got a very creative mind. She's worked with Isabella to develop a company that does greeting cards, Madam Speaker, and she sells these greeting cards. And this is an opportunity for her to contribute to society, feel a part of society, and start to bring in revenue. And this is an opportunity for her to do that. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about Bill Locke, who is also a constituent of mine, who has founded the Capacity Builders in 1999 after leading community organizations. He is part of a project called Food and More that brings together over 25 social agencies and community groups for the food industry and all levels of government to address the problem of starvation in our community. Again, I can go through a number of people. I know I'm running out of time. I know I've had a number of conversations with Drew Brown, who's a former constituent of mine, who has a not-for-profit organization called Hope for Everybody that works in the homeless sector. All of these people are very excited about the opportunity to have access to a fund that allows them to use their expertise and knowledge of the community and the social challenges that exist in our community. And I just want to mention one last thing, Madam Speaker, and that is I was at...
Thank you, Honourable Member. We have 29-2A. Anybody for 29-2A? The Honourable Minister of Innovation and Advanced Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was listening intently. I think the Honourable Member was cut off mid-sentence. I, for one, would like to hear the end of it. That was a passionate and important speech.
Yeah, thank you. I did want to mention two more things, and one was I was reading a 2012 article done by, or interview done by the CBC by Brett Wilson, who said that people that are opposed to these types of ideas, and this is what he said about those people. He says, until the ideas are put on the table and we start to talk about them, I think it's premature for any parties to start bellyaching about whether this is good for the country or not. And he's talking about social innovation in our country. He said, there's no offloading intended. In fact, as I saw it, there's actually an opportunity for government to save money if these programs are effective. What they're saying is we believe in the entrepreneurial spirit of our country, and that the entrepreneurial spirit of our country might be a part of the solution. Bring us your money, bring us your ideas, and we'll reward you. And I believe that's exactly what this does. I just want to finish off by saying that there's a number of concepts that social innovation encompass. And I don't think we should jump to conclusions as to what those might be. There's lots of talk about social impact bond or social finance, which is a form of trying to find private money that invests in a particular program with some sort of return on investment if the appropriate mechanisms or the appropriate outcomes are achieved. That would require, that's a very complex legal agreement, would require the government to book a contingent liability on its balance sheet as part of that agreement. There's social entrepreneurship that really looks at addressing the ability of not-for-profit organizations to build some sort of revenue into their business model. There's public-private partnerships, Madam Speaker, looking at ways that the private sector and the public sector can partner to deliver some sort of public infrastructure or public service. There's also public-public partnerships where you bring a number of public entities or public government departments together to work on projects in a collaborative way that provide a greater good than if they would have done it separately through their own funding mechanisms. And that just brings me to my final point, and it's a point that I was attended just about 3 weeks ago, the Calgary Nonprofit Innovation Awards, which was awarded by the Calgary Chamber of Voluntary Organizations, and Attainable Homes Calgary actually won one of the awards. And as their CEO was speaking, there was something that wasn't lost on me, Madam Speaker, and that was that the CEO, David Watson, said his advice to nonprofit organizations across this province is to make lots of mistakes, just don't make the same ones twice. And I think it's very important. We have a very entrepreneurial and innovative spirit in this province. There's no reason why this shouldn't exist in the social sector as well. And that's really what this is about. It's about investing in as the Honourable Lieutenant Governor said, investing in today's ideas to find tomorrow's solutions. And we need to support this because of that. We need to support our social sector in making sure that they have the opportunity to make mistakes so that we can be innovative and that we don't make those mistakes in the future and we can move on and show progress on many of the societal challenges that we face today. That's why I'm here, Madam Speaker, and I'm sure that's why every member in this Assembly is here. That's why I think we should all support this particular bill.